How's it going? MixRPD here, back with another mix breakdown video for you. So we got I Hope You're Miserable here by Maddie Jade, the great Maddie Jade, real Maddie Jade. And yeah, we're gonna get into it. I don't know, I'm thinking here maybe we'll just do the intro in one video and then I'll do the rest of the mix in another video. We'll see how it goes, but the intro is kind of a whole thing in itself. So this intro was completely crafted in the mixing stage. Maddie had just had the track starting right dead on with the vocals, but we kind of knew that wasn't right, so I sort of crafted a whole intro in the mixing stage, and it took a couple of hours, I think. It was a good bit of work that went into it. So let's just play that. Okay, so this is the main. I just took the beat and did 8 bars, and this is the main thing. So I think I've already shown this on Twitter, but one of the things we're doing here is I'm basically starting it in mono completely, and then throughout the intro it sort of expands out into the stereo field. We get to 70% by the end of the intro, and then once the beat hits full with the vocals, it's 100% wide. We're also excuse me, filtering out the low end and the high end of the beat as well in the intro, so then it hits with more force when the full track hits. So let's look at that S1 imager and we can see what I mean. Okay, so it gives a bigger feeling of width once the full track comes in, because we have the contrast is big in making records, I think, right? So if you have something that's narrow, then it makes something that's wide then feel even more wide. Okay, so what else do we got going on here? So basically I'm doing I'm just trying to like soften like the hi-hat and stuff like this. Let's listen to what this does. Sorry, I gotta play it from the beginning, don't I? Yeah, so you can hear that band sort of softening the snare and maybe the hi-hat a bit and stuff like that. And then we're adding some junk, noise and warble and just some messed up stuff to sort of distress it a bit, final stuff. And then it's going into a tape plugin for more color, and then the imager. So that's what we got going on there, and then we got a bunch of effects. So we got dual chamber reverb, and we got that's a little quiet. So here, let me just pull something up here so I can boost it up. Okay, so that's going to be 6 decibels louder than it is in the actual track. All right, so that's our chamber reverb. Then we have a crystallizer effect here, this is kind of doing like like that old Kanye West sort of like high pitch, glittery vocal octave up thing. It's sort of doing that. Kind of sounds funny on its own, but it makes it really glisten. And then with this shimmer effect as well, oops, let's just get the shimmer. We got this going on. That's really cool. That's super vibey. And then those two together, the crystallizer and the shimmer. That's pretty wild. And then the reverb. Right? Now we're starting to get a vibe. And then what else is on it? Oh, and the galaxy verb just to round it out. So this might be super quiet. So you can hear it's basically a bunch of delays, but it basically translates in the track into sounding like a long reverb. So we got all that going on, and then there's also a parallel chain here. So this is kind of mixed in. You can see I have it about like 15 decibels down from the main track, or maybe more than that, since this one's up 6, so like probably more like 2021. But first we're going into the J37 tape here on the oldest formula, so the dirtiest, and adding some saturation, but it was still a relatively normal, if dirty, tape. And then that's running into the isotope vinyl here, which has the 1960s filter on it, so that's like really, and then the lo-fi switch as well, and then this wear control is all the way up, so that's really making it grainy. Here, can we hear this? Let's hear. So that's just the parallel chain of the intro, the grungy. Now you can hear it really coming in here. Quite grungy. So yeah, if we play the intro and we take out the effects, and then we take out the parallel chain, and the processing, so it kind of just starts to sound like the normal track again. But if we put all that stuff back in, let's just unmute everything. Starts to sound all small and vibey and like a different thing. And then when the intro ends, oh wait, I forgot, it's extra vibey. Every time I do this, I forget to turn it off. It's extra vibey because I have the effects up by 6 decibels, don't I? So let's try that again. Right, so it gives it a whole different vibe when the full track comes in. So I don't know, I guess we can keep going here. That wasn't too long. That's basically the intro. I guess I can show the master bus maybe a little bit at this point, just briefly. So we're going into the ATR 102 tape here, which I love, and the 560 EQ. Am I doing any EQ here? It's hard to tell because of this layout, but it doesn't look like I am. So let's hear that.
I hope you're miserable. I don't know what made you think you could pull me. I hope you're miserable. I hope you're miserable. I was caught up in the hype. I hope you're miserable. Knew I was new to this shit. I was vulnerable, please. Boy, I hope you're miserable. You're shacking up with E-hoes.
Okay, you can hear the color that's adding. I like that color and sort of like tightness that it locks the whole track in with. Then we're adding the Pultec EQ with no EQ. The UAD one here gives it a good amount of weight. Let's hear it.
E-hoes while I'm racking up these C notes. Used to lie in your rhymes, I was wasting my time. What the fuck was you bothering me for? Vibe like mine is visceral. You're so typical, you deserve typical life.
Yeah, that's adding a lot of vibe. That might be even more color than the other two, actually. That's pretty huge. I like it. And then we've got the... Okay, so here we're doing something interesting. I'm often doing this this mid-side thing here where I'm high passing the side signal, cutting the low end of the side signal out, and low passing the mid signal, so cutting the very, very high end at 20 kilohertz out of the mid signal a little bit. So that I've shown before. So that's happening, but also here, these high frequency controls on the mid and the side, treating them a little more or less equal, aren't we? But yeah, we're cutting the high end a little bit. So let's see what happens if we take these off and put the high end back in.
Typical, I had emotional whiplash from you crashing out. Know the force of a fuckboy centripetal. You had to go up and make this shit difficult. Lie on my name and subject me to ridicule. Used to pretend to put me on a pedestal, kicked it from under me.
I thought it would be more obvious than that, to be honest. But yeah, it just gets a little darker, doesn't it? It's 4 dB or something like that. But it doesn't sound like it's that much, but it just gets subtly darker, doesn't it? I like it. It's vibey. And then I don't think this limiter is even touching it. This is just bringing up the level a little bit. Yeah, you can see there's no attenuation here. So that's just basically turning it up. And then we hit the mastering chain, and we're doing a more mid-side here. So I've shown this before again, like mid center signal expanding the low end, and side signal expanding the high end. So basically you're going to get more width out of this usually.
Kicked it from under me just out of spite. You knew from jump you was gonna leave me hanging, right? You wasn't even my type. I don't know what made you think you could pull me. I was caught up.
Oh, sorry, I stopped it a little early there. But yeah, you usually get more width out of that because you're pushing the high signal, the high frequencies to the sides. But it also just kind of makes it come at you a little more. Like you can hear that on this one, I think. And then we're just going through some ozone, a little bit of a smiley curve, low and high end, expanding some of the higher frequencies, narrowing some of the lower frequencies, a little bit of elastic dynamic EQ here, and yeah, limiter, upward compression, little soft clip, and then just this limiter's on the end here. This is probably just doing just a tiny bit.
I was caught up in the hype. You knew I was new to this shit. I was vulnerable. Please, you know that I'm doing just fine. I never needed a cosign. Wish I was the type to be.
Yeah, so we're getting probably 2-3 dB of limiting between the two of them, but it's mostly the ozone one that's doing it. Okay, so let's move on into the mix. So that's the intro and the mastering and the mix bus. So what do we got here? This is the main beat. Oh, and I guess I should mention that, I mean, I'm not going to go through it all with a fine tooth or anything, but like there's quite a bit of automation going on in the intro to make it all happen, right? The whole thing's fading up, the effects are fading up. There's the mono to wider automation that I've shown already, etc. So there's a few things going on there. But let's get into these drums. So it's much the same story here as with the intro. This is a little higher up here, but I'm sort of trying to soften the drums, the high end of the drums in particular, because I think the theory was more to give the high end of the track to Maddie's voice, to reserve the high end for her voice more so. Yeah, so you can hear that's the hi-hat that's targeting there. I wanted less hi-hat. Yeah. So that's just sinking the hi-hat in a bit. And then we got the tape plug in here, which you can see I'm trimming down the high frequencies even more. It's giving it some color. Rounds it off nicely, and then the soothe is kind of doing more of the same thing, just attenuating some of these higher mid frequencies mostly. You can hear the snare gets a little bit sharper with that off, and then there's a little bit of EQ here, so we're just sort of cutting little bits out of the mid-range here and there. So, you know, in a way it's focusing it more on the lower and the higher end, right? We're softening the higher end, and then we're picking little bits out of the mid-range to attenuate as well. So let's hear that. Off. Okay, so and then it's all going off to a reverb from here. So it's this, where's he at? Let's see. There it is, the LX Music Club. It's an impulse response. So let's hear with that off. So that's one reverb, but there is another reverb you can probably hear as well. It's this dual chamber again. But from there, the drum track is going off to this drum bus here, and there's not a lot going on. We've got another Pultec, and I'm not boosting any high end. I often do on the drums, 10 or 5 kilohertz maybe, but we are boosting some 60 hertz here. And we know this guy just gives color anyways. You can definitely feel a lot more weight in the kick with that on. And then it's got a UAD 550 API EQ here too, but we're not doing any EQ. I bet we're going to hear a difference if we bypass it though. Not as much as I thought, but it's there, so it's there. Okay, so sometimes I listen back to the video afterwards though and go, oh no, you could hear it. Okay, so let's listen to this dual chamber reverb, because this is where the action's really starting to happen, to be honest here. Pull it up whenever it feels like it. There it goes. So that's drastically different with that reverb off, right? So you can hear what I noticed from sort of analyzing the mix after the fact. I can't say that I 100% did this, like, you know, knowingly or whatever, but I did it through, I guess, intuition and ear. But it's adding a melodic element, right? The drums sort of go doom, doom, da, da, doom, da. But if you take this reverb out, it doesn't really do that. I mean, it's there, right? You can still hear that it's there, but you don't really notice it so much. And then the reverb really brings it out. And also, we're EQing the reverb here. So taking a little low end off, shaving a little high end. But it's this 440 hertz boost here. That's where that sort of tonal quality is really living, right? So I'm boosting that up in the reverb, right? So if I just turn this boost off, listen. Right? So with that boost on it, that tonal quality, that melodic thing gets a lot more intense, right? So yeah, that's basically what's going on with the drums. From there, let's go on to the bass.
Even my type. was vulnerable, please, you know that I'm doing just fine.
All right, so we got an 808 here serving as the bass. Sounds kind of funny on its own, right? But it works in the track. Let's hear it. If I take, I like to see what happens if you take something out of a track. Sometimes it can be more revealing, you know, to mute something and see what happens without it.
I'm different, interested in register, worried about rapping your shit in one take. Your takes on the raps in a terrible way that you did me, that shit was unbearable. Put down the capsules, you really need therapy, boy. You want some MK Ultra shit?
So just the arrangement of the track, you can see here, I mean, the bass sort of goes and drones, and then it sort of stops and it comes back, right? So the track works without the bass in a way, because it has to, because it's not playing constantly. But when you take the bass out completely, it's like, you know, there's no weight to the track anymore. It doesn't sound important. Madi doesn't sound like she means it as much anymore. And there's this like moody cloud that's removed. Right, this track is like all emotion, and yeah, this is serving as that moody cloud. So there's nothing going on here we can see, but it's going to be going off to a bass bus. And where? Oh, it's right below. My fault. So we've got some saturation here. So this is going to be giving it more fullness in like earbuds and things like that, small speakers.
Embarrassed and grateful for clarity, grateful God spared me from you. You turned out average and I am a rarity. You wasn't even my type. I don't know what made you think you could.
All right, so I don't know if you're listening on small speakers, maybe you can hear it more so. But that's definitely gonna help you out. Adding harmonics. Then we're going into another 550 here API, and we're boosting up a couple clicks of 50 hertz. All right, so yeah, it kind of sounds thin without it. Sounds tighter and fatter with that. I love API EQs. And then we got a pull tack, and we're boosting up 30 hertz. So this is going to be for the sub. So it's not exactly, but 50 hertz and 30 hertz are close to an octave apart. 60 hertz would be an octave, but that's not available on the API. So I guess I could have gone 20, but I went 30 here, and I like it. Let's hear this. Oh, I think we've got to a part where there's no bass. Here we go. So yeah, that's kind of thin again, right? So if we take out the 550 as well, now it sounds super, super thin. Barely even sounds like a bass anymore, right? So let's put those guys back in. For sure. Okay, and then we've got, this guy is interesting. So I'm not doing any EQ on here. I bet I tried to, but I was surprised when I bypassed it. Listen what happens. Back on. I mean, I can't even explain it. I don't know what's going on there, but all I know is what I hear is that when I bypass this plugin, the I guess it's because it's a stereo track, right? But when with this on, even with no EQ, it's just tightening it up into the middle. Like, listen what's going on in the stereo field, and play it again. So you feel a stereo image, I think, but it feels tighter. And now listen without. It feels loose and disconnected to me. Like the left and the right feel disconnected. Back on. Tightens it up. So I'm not going to be one to explain it scientifically necessarily, but all I know is I like what I hear there. So we're going to leave it on. And then just rounding it out with the tube tech, if it wants to ever come up. There it is. And yeah, I'll often use this on the end or near the end of a bass chain. So it's just keeping it in check. Bypass. On. Just pushes it forward just a little, I think. So that's nice. Let's hear the whole track again. We haven't heard her in a while.
vulnerable, please just focus on flights and lies, alright. I never needed no cosign. I'm having the time of my life.
She's having the time of her life out here. Okay, so now this is kind of like maybe the main melodic element. So you can hear there's that grain. There's that sort of graininess in the sample, in the sound, which I don't know. How much do you notice that in the whole track?
What made you think you could pull me? I always gotta.
Funny how you don't really notice it at all. Like I can't even hear it, but when you play this track in solo, there's that weird slithery graininess. It sounds kind of bad in solo, to be honest. And this is where you can get messed up. You know, when you mix in solo too much out of context, and you can be like, "Ooh, I got to remove that grainy sound. Where is it? Over there. See, it's less now. But now the whole thing sounds like crap, right? So don't do that, because like you can't even hear it in the track, right? So, anyways, just a little word of wisdom there. So all I'm doing to this, it looks like, yeah, all I'm doing to this is at R bass. So this is just going to be adding some like low end. Yeah, so it's thicker with it, but it's again, it's more about the emotion of it, I think, right? It's more moody. Let's hear the whole track and bypass this.
Vibe like mine is visceral. You're so typical, you deserve typical. I had emotional whiplash from you crashing out. Know the force of a fuckboy centripetal. You had to go up and make this shit difficult. Lie on my name and subject me to ridicule. Used to pretend to.
Right, I think this track sort of blends with the bass track, and then this R bass sort of helps blend it and fill it out and smush it together, so you get this moody low end out of it, right? Let's go to where the bass is. I'm gonna bypass the R bass on the synth. And it doesn't feel as together now, right? To me. Back on. Feel that atmosphere come back, that moodiness. So that's what it's about, right? It's not, it's not like, oh, let's make things sound good or whatever, right? It's like, let's find the emotion in the track and bring it out. Let's enhance, Like I could have, maybe me from a few years ago, I would have been like, ooh, that grainy sound. Let's try to EQ that out or something like that. And that would have been my focus, trying to fix it. And then I just would have made it sound worse. I just proved that pretty much, right? But instead, I focused on enhancing, and I think the result is much better for that. So let's move on. There's nothing happening on the synth bus at all. What do we got here? Oh, okay. So this is the whole beat, like on a 2-track, on a stereo track, the entire instrumental, and then I've like heavily compressed it, and then I've turned it down, like 20 dB. So yeah, this sounds crazy on its own. Right, but it's adding, hear that punch, right? It's just adding a bit of punch. It's not like you're gonna hear it overtly like that, but let's take it out.
I was caught up in the hype. You knew I was new to this shit. I was vulnerable. Please, you know that I'm doing just fine. I never needed a cosign. Wish I was the type to be kind, but
just gives it a little extra push, kind of similar to the low and high end expansion guy here on the master. It's just giving that extra flick a little bit. So I had this track, so I just thought I'd use it, I guess. It looks like I've taken a bit of low end out, just because I guess it was too much. Okay, and that's pretty much the beat, I think. And then we're on to, I don't know, did I forget any effects or anything? Sometimes I do stuff like that. No, I don't think so. Oh yeah, I was supposed to show the intro here. This was the filtering in the intro. So the low end of the intro is filtered out, and the high end makes it feel smaller, and with the mono thing and everything, right? And then that comes off when the whole beat hits, so it feels bigger. Oh, and one thing I forgot before the master bus is this titanium master multiband compressor, so we can bypass this.
I was caught up in the hype. I hope you're miserable. Knew I was new to this shit, I was vulnerable, please. Boy, I hope you're miserable. You're shacking up with hoes while I'm racking up these C notes. Used to lie in your rhymes, I was wasting.
Yeah, so that's adding some really cool dimension. I don't always use. I feel like when I got this plugin, I was like, oh my god, it's so amazing. I have to use it on everything all the time. But then I learned that sometimes it's the thing, and sometimes I don't know. When it doesn't work, it sort of just separates things too much, I think, and maybe makes things feel a little flat and boring. But when it works, it gives like this 3D thing that's so cool. And then it's got the 3-band gains on the end here. So this is the low end, and I'm boosting up the low end a little bit. So it's adding to that moodiness as well for the whole, like the full track. So yeah, let's go on to the vocals, the star of the show. Although a little bit controversially in this, I mean, we're very happy with how this turned out, and a lot of people really dig the vibe, but some people were like, the vocals should be louder, and I don't know, maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't, but this is the way we wanted it to be. We feel it reflects the emotion of the subject matter, and it's perfect. But let me know what you think in the comments and all that junk. Here we go.
Rhymes, I was wasting my time. What the fuck was you bothering me for? Vibe like mine is visceral. You so typical, you deserve typical. I had emotional whiplash from you crashing out. Know the force of a fuckboy centripetal. You had to go up and make this shit difficult.
Okay, so what do we got going on here? There's 3 different tracks of Maddie's vocals. So this was the dry track, but I have since added some reverb and delay. We can take that off.
Difficult lie on my name and subject me to ridicule. Used to pretend to put me on a pedestal, kicked it from under me just out of spite.
Still
You
this
knew from
Galaxy
jump
verb,
you
though.
was gonna leave me hanging, right? You wasn't even my type. I don't know what made you think you could pull.
So that's the dry vocal. And then the other 2 elements are, there was a wet vocal here. So this was like her level of reverb that she had in her demo, and her
I was
reverb.
caught up in the hype. Knew I was new to this shit, I was vulnerable, please.
Take that Galaxy verb off again.
You're shacking up with hoes while I'm racking up the.
So we got that one. And then the other element was just a pure reverb, I think, basically. So we got this one.
I'm racking up these C notes.
Oh, and what I did here was I actually added another reverb to it. So that's more like how it came in. Oh, and I'm filtering it as well and all that. So it sounded more like that to begin with.
Subject me to ridicule, used to pretend to put me on a pedestal, kicked it from under me just out of spite. You knew from jump you was.
And we end up with that. And then together we already heard them. So let's see what we got going on here. So the dry vocal, a little bit of noise reduction. And I think you could hear when I put the full track in, I probably could have removed some more, microphone stand noise and some little rumbles and stand knocks and stuff like that. But hey, they're in the track, and that's the way it is. Sometimes when the vocal is going on, it can be hard to remove a noise that occurs at the same time, right? So sometimes you just got to live with it a little bit. But I don't think you can hear anything offensive in the track or anything. So, but maybe if you turn the vocals up louder, you could. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, we got a little bit of noise reduction happening here, and we're sending off to, let's hear these effects here. We got my tiled room reverb, the Abbey plate, and which is pretty low, I think, and then a half note delay. So tiled room. That's pretty cool. Sounds kind of claustrophobic or something, right? And then I've panned that more towards the middle, right? Like 34, 56. Left and right. This is the plate. So that's kind of more ethereal and wider. The Abbey plate here. Pretty long on the damper. A little bit of pre-delay. Like 73 milliseconds. And then, oops. 1 second, we're getting all confused. Okay, so this is kind of a cool thing here. So this is just on for the like beginning part of the vocal where there's more space, because you can see here on one of the vocal tracks, like she's got space in the beginning here, but then once she gets going, she really leans in. So I'm using this this half note delay because she's actually leaving a half note of space to fill in, and it's like sort of filtered, so it's like a telephone. Here it comes. Let's just hear the whole thing, I think. No, not that. Here we go.
You wasn't even my type. I don't know what made you think you could pull me.
Right, so that just kind of subtly fills in the spaces. You can't really hear it overtly in the mix like that, but believe it or not, things that you can't always hear overtly can be of use. That's where like the muting technique can come in, where like you just sometimes you just want to feel something rather than hear it overtly. And yeah, in this case, that's why it's filtered too, so it's not taking up so much space, but it's just putting a subtle version of the vocal in there in the space. Anyways, onward we go. So I think all of the, let's look at the wet vocal first, see what we're doing here. So we got a bit of de-essing, or sorry, this is not de-essing, this is RVox. So this is just a bit of a gate here that I'm using. I'm not using the compressor. A bit of de-esser, as mentioned, up around like 9-10 kilohertz. She was just getting a little sizzly. A little bit more work here to cool her off in the 2 to 4 kilohertz range. And what do we got here? A little bit of a high-end boost, actually, a shelf at 3.45 kilohertz. Because like I said, I think the idea was to have her living in the higher end a little bit, more so than like the hi-hat and the snare and all that, which we wanted to push back. And then there's a bit of a mid-range boost here. So this is a pretty classic SSL technique, actually, where you take the high shelf and you boost at, in this case, about 3.5 kilohertz, and then I'm going in at basically the same frequency here on the high mid bell curve and boosting as well. So yeah, that's a pretty standard technique. That's pretty cool. So let's hear that. Let's just listen to this track.
Knew I was new to this shit. I was vulnerable. So
this whole track, we're sort of let's see, are we filtering it here? No, but the whole thing does sound sort of like this, like she's pinching her nose, right? Thinner. So it's giving that sort of telephonic element. But yeah, let's hear what happens if we bypass this SSL.
You had to go out and make this shit difficult. Lie on my name and subject me to ridicule. Used to pretend to put
so it gets a lot darker, right?
Kicked it from under me just out of spite. You knew from jump you was gonna leave me hanging.
So this is where that telephonic thing is coming from. These two boosts here, maybe particularly this one. But yeah, so that's the sound we're going for there. And then so yeah, both the dry and the wet vocal here are going off to the lead vocal bus, and then we've got more processing, bit of a high pass filter, about 145 hertz, some compression. Come on now.
Don't leave me hanging, right? You wasn't even my type. I don't know what made you think you could pull me. I was caught up in the hype. You knew
so you can see the actions like pretty quick here. Just getting a little, and then a little bit of a boost on the output. Let's bypass it.
You knew I was new to this shit. I was vulnerable. Please know that I'm doing just fine. I never needed a cosign. Wish I was the type to be.
Yeah, so it's kind of just doing the thing that I love about that compressor, where it sort of brings the vocal forward, but then we're doing some other things so she doesn't come too far forward, because we didn't want her to be right in the front of the track in this case. In this song, we sort of wanted her to be behind the instruments a little bit, but still be audible. So you sort of lean in, right? The whole intro is designed to make you lean in and go into the world. So it's all part of the same thing. And we have a little bit more de-essing around 10 kilohertz again. So again, that's one of the things that's sort of sinking her into the track a little bit, and also keeping the S's in check. A little bit of the Renaissance Fox here, which usually adds a nice little bit in the low mids to the voice.
I was the type to be kind, but I hope you're miserable. Again to somebody regular. Told you I'm different, it just didn't register. Worried about rapping your shit in one take. Your takes on the rap scene are terrible.
So yeah, I don't know if you can hear that or not, but to me it brings out the low end, the low mids of the voice, gives a nice pleasing fullness. What do we got here? Pultec.
Seen a terrible way that you did me, that shit was embarrassing.
So this is, yeah, we're boosting 100 hertz, so this is going to be just a little tiny bit. That's going to be giving a little bit more fullness and a little bit more sparkle on the high end. 10 kilohertz, that's pretty standard stuff. Let's hear it.
That shit was unbearable.
I'm going to put this reverb in too, because this is how it actually sounds in the track.
Unbearable, put down the capsules, you really need therapy, boy. You want some MK Ultra shit. When I look back, this shit is embarrassing. Grateful for clarity, grateful God spared me from you. You turned out average.
So now let's hear it without the Pultec.
You turned out average and I am a rarity. You wasn't even my type. I don't know what made you think you could pull me.
So just a classic smiley, kind of just makes it sound better, right? Then we got the soothe, just again keeping her in check. A little bit of saturation.
Me, I was caught up in the hype. You knew I was new to this shit. I was vulnerable. Please just focus on flights and lies, alright?
That's just helping to keep her audible. The mix is backed off a little bit. It's like 70-80%. A little bit of MV2. So right after the little bit of distortion, just doing a little bit of up level here, turning up the quiet junk, and then the tube tech again to keep her in check.
It's and lies, alright. I never needed no cosign.
So this is a bit of a slower acting one, just meant to smooth it over.
Did no cosign. I'm having the time of my life, and I hope you're miserable. Did me, that shit was unbearable. Put down the capsules, you really need therapy, boy. You want some MKO.
Yeah, just tightens up. And then what's this? Just a little bit of dynamic check here, keeping her from getting muddy. So let's hear this.
Some MK Ultra shit. When I look back, this shit is embarrassing. Grateful for clarity, grateful God.
Right, so we want that fullness in her voice, but we don't want it to be too much, right? So this is just helping to. You can hear how muddy it sounds when I solo that, right? It's sort of closed, right? So we don't want it to sound muddy like that, but we want it to sound full. So we're just trying to get the best of both worlds. And then let's listen to this one.
Grateful God spared me from you. You turned out average and I am a rarity. You wasn't even my type.
Yeah, I mean, you can see on the visualizer here, right? She's just shooting up a little bit here on some of the S's and consonants and whatnot. So just keeping that in check a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. Is there anything we haven't checked out on the vocals here? I think we looked at the effects. I'm not using parallel. That's one thing we missed on the drums though. There is a parallel chain on the drums. No parallel on the vocals. So this is without parallel. And with. So just filling it out without having to just necessarily crank the volume of the drums so much, filling it out in a different way. So I've probably shown this chain before, but it's a bit of saturation, tube saturation into a kind of a unique compressor here. We're getting 15, 20 dB, whatever it is. A little bit more distortion, and then the up level. So now the only thing we haven't really looked at here is the sort of outro, where there's a whole different beat, and Maddie starts reading poetry and such, and it's really cool. So let's listen to that.
Focus on flights and lies, alright. I never needed no cosign. I'm having the time of my life, and I hope you're miserable. Yeah, I hope you're miserable.
Yo, a bitch made this?
That's a really cool switch, right?
I will still quietly provide when the sky gets too heavy on your frame. But do not come to me when the others, disguised as admirers, try to cut you down and make you into something that you're not.
Wow. Leaves you stone cold. Okay, so what do we got going on? We got a couple of piano loops, and I didn't really do anything with this. I just sent them off to, my computer was almost on fire by the end of this mix. So I just sent them off to the instrumental bus, which will then be going through the titanium multiband and all the master bus stuff and the mastering chain. That's all I did. Did I even touch the level? Nope, because they were pretty much perfect. They just needed to get in the mix. That's all. So we got this one. Ooh, there's a lot of hiss. And then there's this one. Oh, wow. And together. Oh, first one ended. So, very vibey. And what else do we have? We have this. This is sort of like the drums here. So all I did really here was send this off. Well, I turned it down. You can see 10 decibels because it's quite loud. And sent it off to the drum bus. So then it's going through the Pultec and the API there, getting a little low end and whatnot, and it's also going through the drum parallel chain, and crucially, it's getting sent to the dual chamber reverb. So, I mean, if you take that off, let's listen to the whole outro and then just mute that dual chamber reverb, because it's probably going to be wrong.
Yo, a bitch made this?
Not as dramatic as I thought it was going to be, actually. It's kind of just, it's more enhancing. The vibe is there already, and then that's just serving to enhance it even further, right? And then what do we got here? Wow. So this drone thing, I'm just taking out, I'm just darkening it, and then sending it off to the synth bus. Take that off. Ooh, that's very bright. So I didn't think we needed all that brightness. Let's listen in context.
Yo, a bitch made this?
Yeah. See, that's super. It's just, you know, with the EQ one, it's just going ooh and being ominous, right? But without, you know, with that high end back in, it's super distracting, and you can't hear the piano properly, and no bueno. Okay, so simple but effective there. That seems to be nothing at all, and yeah, that's pretty much all we got. So Yeah, I don't think I missed anything this time. I think we got every single thing in the video. Hope you enjoyed. Please share, subscribe to me, stream Maddie Jade. Let's check her out. There she is. Hello. Okay. Love you all. Goodbye.